The Politics podcast is brought to you, as always, by The Contender, the game of presidential debate. Head on over there right now. You're going to go to store. All right, cool. Then you're going to scroll down. You're going to say the 2016 expansion pack. It's going to say sold out. That's because we're not selling it yet. But you can scroll down to the bottom of that page and pre-order it. It's all the comments and quotes and good memories of this insane debate cycle in one Contender expansion. Go ahead and pick it up right now, thecontender.us. And by patreon.com/JURY. That is where we have 404. Man, we ain't no busted webpage, but there's 404 of you that support the Justin Robert Young solo talking industrial complex, including not only this show, but also the jury program, a general interest show where we get to have a fun time and talk about whatever we want. Thank you. You have no idea how much this supports us. Patreon.com/JURY. But what do you say we could go ahead and start the show?
Politics.
It's the art of doing things when you're yelling at and talking about your penis. Politics. Welcome, everybody, to the Politics program. My name is Justin Robert Young. I'm going to be your humble host during this roughly 40-minute excursion. I'm not going to lie to you, folks. When I decided to start doing this show, I thought it was going to be a different program. I thought that this would be a lot like the conversations that I'd have with my friends during the election. That it would be a lot of commentating on the subtle yet time-honored chess moves of a campaign. A feint in one direction, a commitment in another, a sacrifice made for momentum earned. The elegant give and take of a political contest. Really, one that could be best likened to fencing or chess. Something that is, you would hear chamber music in the background. Bum bum ba-da-dum bum 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 ba-da-dum bum bum bum. More. I've seen you've blocked my Vespucci method. Very wise. That kind of stuff. And I love that kind of stuff. I love the elements of boxing in an opponent and then slowly whittling the life out of them by shaping a populace to your message and making sure that they walk into a booth and press your button. Unfortunately, I have not really had the ability to do that podcast. Because both of these primary processes, maybe in the general, I'll get to do that podcast. Maybe. And I don't know whether or not that'll be good or bad for the show, by the way. I don't know whether or not people are like, oh no, I'm really into this show because of Justin's frustration that he can't do another show. Maybe people are really into that, or they're really into the fact that what has happened is on one side, you have a very effective coronation. And on the other side, you have an open civil war amongst the party. Now, the Republican Party, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Hillary and Bernie, all right? You know, we're just going to, here's my Hillary and Bernie commentary. Just when, Bernie fans, when are you going to give up the ghost on Bernie? Because it's over, all right? I'm here to tell you, it's done. He had a great run. Bernie Sanders comes out of this election maybe the only clear winner. Because I don't know if anybody else in this election comes out better than they walked into it, except for Bernie. Bernie was a rando. Bernie was somebody that outside of Vermont, nobody really knew. And now look at him, a folk hero of the highest order. That dude is going to be able to tour and give talks forever. And they will all sound like this. But it's done. It's done, right? Over. The Republican Party, historically, has always been a tumultuous primary process because, by their own admission, they are a big tent party, right? They are a party in which many different factions have coalesced. Now, this is where you tend to get a lot of the criticism from the left to the right because they single in on a part of that coalition that they find morally or economically repugnant, and then they pick and tweeze it. But this does not stop the fact that historically, a Republican primary is an ugly thing. There's all the little different tribes elect their possible person, and then they go ahead and battle it out. It's always a little bit ugly. In fact, it was 4 years ago that the Republican Party said, you know what? This is way too screwed up. We can't possibly have a primary process that is as brutal as the one we just went through, where Mitt Romney was just decimated, punched in the kidneys repeatedly by Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum. Oh my God, did you see they made a documentary about him? A documentary, you say? Bum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. Yes, they attacked him. Woo! Why, never. Yes, they said that he was a vile businessman, and he took over businesses, and he didn't care for the working people. No! Clutch your pearls, Meredith. Yes, they did. We need to stop it. We need to stop the madness. Like Susan Powder holding a petrified piece of fat with a frowny face on it. We need to stop the madness. We can't have this go on so long. We can't have there be too many debates. We need to re-civilize the Republican primary process. Smash cut to what happened last night and the last debate, which is effectively the fight scene in Anchorman. Marco Rubio is holding a grenade. You know, Ben Carson comes out at the very last moment. Oh, I heard you guys were looking for a fight. Just an absolute bloodbath, right? What happened last night is open civil war in the Republican Party. They're going to need to power spray the inside of the big tent because of all the blood and guts and viscera that has been embedded into it after every faction of this party is effectively at war with another part of the factions, including internally. Yes, friends, Inception level civil war. Civil war going on with evangelicals. Evangelicals, all right, there's so much to unpack. Let's start with, of course, the number one, the big banana, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is leading. He had a good Super Tuesday, did not have a great Super Tuesday, but ultimately benefited from what he has benefited from since the very, very beginning of this race. There are too many people in the same lanes to challenge him. He does weakest against Marco Rubio in a one-on-one matchup. And yet, Marco Rubio has not been able to chase out other people that would give him a better shot against Donald Trump. Specifically, in this case, John Kasich. There's a mathematical argument to be made that if John Kasich was out of the race in Virginia, that he, being Marco Rubio, would have been able to beat Donald Trump and effectively reshape this race. He finally won his first state, a caucus in Minnesota, but Marco Rubio now kind of escrewed, which is Spanish for screwed. Meanwhile, John Kasich screws Marco Rubio in probably more meaningful ways by staying in the race and effectively killing Marco Rubio getting over, because John Kasich places in single digits in a lot of these races, but specifically in Texas, Marco Rubio had to get over 20% to get any delegates out of Texas. He did not. Now, granted, it's a stretch to say that all John Kasich voters would vote for Marco Rubio, but that seems to be where the data points. And I blame this on Marco Rubio, because these are the kind of deals you have to cut if you're going to be president. You have to have these elements of leadership to make your life easier. And if you can't cut them now, they're going to be harder to cut when you're president. But let's get into Donald Trump. Donald Trump got the poop kicked out of him last night. Who knows whether or not it does much. It was a bad day in general for Donald Trump. Beginning of the day started out with a blast from the past. Remember that once thought to be savage and now utterly genteel as a Southern Field 2012 primary? Well, it was won by one Mr. Romney. And yesterday morning, across cable news, you could hear the siren call of Utah's favorite son screaming, "Did somebody forget their mittens? I'm back." And boy, was he. Mitt Romney came out and savaged the Donald. A phony, a fraud, a con artist, a good businessman he is not, said Mittens. I don't quite effectively, I wrestled with this all yesterday. So I'm glad I get to do this show today and not yesterday, because I was utterly confused by it. I thought, well, if he's going to do something, then why didn't he do it earlier? And if he's going to come out strong, then why didn't he endorse somebody? So after reading and doing some research, I think this is what we can read into what happened with the Mitt Man. This is listen, winter is here for the Republican Party. It is going to be a long, brutal night, because the night is dark and full of terrors, and it will be for the GOP over the next 3 months, because there is a growing contingent of powerful conservatives and Republicans that want this thing to get to a brokered convention. Now, understand what that means, because a convention usually in modern political history is a coronation, not like the 6 months coronation that we've had for Hillary Clinton, but a real coronation, one with pomp and circumstance and music and sometimes a crown. But normally what happens at these conventions is you introduce your running mate to the world. If you still have 3 people running for president in a brokered convention, does that mean that we get 3 different running mates? Do they all get speaking time? Man, you're going to need that 3-day window for the stage and the mic, because that is going to be a long, 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 contentious convention. Because, man, listen to those debate crowds. Those debate crowds are hostile. Hostile. That convention in Cleveland, man, you're going to think that lake is on fire because of another chemical spill, but really it will just be the venom leaking out of the mouth of everybody inside the Quicken Loans arena. I don't know if Venom lights on fire. Somebody look that up. Believe me, I should just I should just go with the Trump thing. I should just say, and Venom does light on fire. Believe me. So Donald Trump doesn't have a good night. Who knows whether or not it matters, but there is one element that I think could, capital C, could be an erosion point for Donald Trump. Not only in the Republican primary, but also in the general, should he make it. Flip-flopping was more than ever in a debate brought up as a major issue for him. Now, we've seen this in the air before. Stephen Colbert did a whole thing of Trump versus Trump. John Oliver, and boy, man, has anybody programmed the last week of Republican talking points more than John Oliver? That dude does a real funny job on his funny show. It's a great show. I really like it. It was a great segment. Thought it was hilarious. But almost like in the order in which he mentioned it, Trump, the Mexico resort, Trump vodka, Trump steaks, Trump University. It's like the exact same order even that Mitt Romney mentioned it, and it all came up during the debate last night. So good for John Oliver. That dude is effectively the most important Republican strategist in the country right now. Cheers to you. But flip-flopping. Now, where do we... nothing is stuck to Trump at all. And a lot of this is because the biggest reason why people like to vote for him, that he has success based on exit polls, is that he speaks his mind. Fox News, specifically Megyn Kelly, who I just realized last night looks a lot like Elsa from Frozen. Did anybody else realize that? How is this not a national meme? And it's a good look for her. Cold never bothered her anyway. It's a good look. Meg, I'm not saying it's a bad look. It's a very, very, very good look. I just didn't realize it. When everything was getting heated last night, I don't know if this is my favorite part of the debate. Everybody was yelling at each other. Megyn Kelly just made an ice bridge with her hands and skated away. It was great. Megyn Kelly makes a point last night and says, hey, a lot of people vote for you because you say what you mean, except here's a big video block of you saying one thing and then literally saying something else, in some cases, a day later. He even had a moment on stage wherein, when pressed about an inconsistency, he yelled, "I'm changing!" Which I thought was great, only because I thought what would follow is him turning into a wolf and just, "I'm changing!" Oh! And just the hair, comes all over his fingers, become claws, and he just starts mauling Ted Cruz and John Kasich. No, I'm Wolf Trump now. Oh. But I do wonder whether or not, I don't think anybody who is for Trump is never not going to be for Trump. I don't think that you convince people that Trump is not the guy. I think that the only way that you get other elements of the Republican Party and independents on his side beyond his core support is if he has inevitability, which might be there now, right? You're starting to see a little bit of an uptick, but he still polls very low. He polls around like the mid 30s, which is just insane that we're talking about like this absolute inevitability when he still polls really low. Anyway, long story short, this might be the only thing, is that, he I was waiting for either Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio to basically talk directly to Trump supporters and say, hey, look at all these things that he's flipped his mind on. He might have already changed his mind about, they hammered him on this BuzzFeed report. For those of you who didn't read about it, BuzzFeed reported that the New York Times, when doing their endorsements, they bring in a bunch of candidates, they ask people questions. Now, real quick digression about how editorial boards work, because a lot of y'all might not know about this. Editorial boards are not the rank and file people of a newspaper. In fact, the rank and file reporters and editors of a newspaper many times openly inside the newsroom despise and hate the editorial board. Why? Well, because the editorial board is made up of a bunch of people that don't exactly follow this stuff day to day and yet get to make proclamations with the newspaper's name on it, therefore making it harder for the reporters to do their jobs when what the paper says is contradictory to the opinion of a source. So, for example, if the newspaper comes out and supports Chris Christie, and then you go to Marco Rubio, who really wanted that endorsement, your reporter might be treated poorly because they want retribution for what they thought should have been their endorsement. While meanwhile, the reporter didn't get any goddamn say in the matter. Now, this is done so you can separate or firewall an opinion from what is supposed to be the hilariously outdated and stupid notion that reporters are just truth bots that wander through the hinterlands of America, gathering truth, putting it into their gaping robo-maw, and then pooping out completely objective facts that they then run in the newspapers. Now, we all know that's not true. Reporters have opinions like anybody else, and many times it colors their reporting. But for whatever reason, we still like to pretend that everybody can be totally objective, despite the fact that it's laughably ridiculous. So Donald Trump comes in and sits down with the editorial board. Now, very often, reporters are a part of these meetings to ask questions of the candidates. Because even the editorial board people know that they're not as up on the day-to-day as these reporters are. So the reporters ask him questions. A lot of stuff is on the record. Some stuff is off the record. In reporter etiquette, if I were to tell you, hey, I'm Justin, I'm running for president, isn't that great? That's all on the record. Anything I've said up to right now, when I tell you this is off the record, is on the record. It's like an incantation, right? You have to announce it. This is off the record. Anyway, so I went out last night. I got so wasted and I was just vomiting. And I thought that my liver was going to come out of my throat. It was awful. All right, we're done with off the record. And that's why America needs more jobs, right? You need to, it's like a code, right? You need to start the code, say whatever you want, end the code. Apparently, when Donald Trump was asked off the record about his immigration policy, he said things that amongst reporter circles, as reported by BuzzFeed, have been thought to be very damaging to his position. In fact, he may or may not have said that he doesn't really believe he can build a wall or that a wall is necessary. This is all hearsay and conjecture. Now, people getting in trouble during these meetings for what they say during these meetings is nothing new. Y'all might remember Barack Obama during an editorial board meeting said that there are a majority of Americans in the Republican Party that cling to their God and guns, or guns and religion, I think. So this is stuff that happens. Embarrassing things get said during these editorial board meetings. And Trump got hit on that repeatedly. And it made me wonder whether or not, nothing is stuck to this dude. And maybe this won't either. But I think this has the best chance of it. Just to say, hey, look, you're being taken for a ride, and here's the proof. Hey, whenever he says, I'm changing, whenever he says, I'm evolving, you don't want to be stuck to a bad idea for the rest of your life. Just understand that what you like about him is going to be his next bad idea that he doesn't want to stick with for the rest of his life. Now, they didn't really do that, but I'd be curious to see whether or not they do it going forward. All that being said, I had a thought this morning that I believe could end all this strife. Yes. I am going to give advice to Donald J. Trump. I am going to tell him how he can end the primary process and indeed become the unifier that he says that he is. Which is maybe the best, just if you're only going to have one moment crystallize this Republican primary process, it is Donald Trump with a straight face saying that he is a unifier. While, literally behind him are an eyeball is stuck to the wall and it's just blood splatters, looking like halfway through the third act of Hostel behind him, body parts all over the place. I'm a uniter. Really? Okay. But I think he could. I think he could be a uniter. And he could do it with Marco Rubio's help. Now, not Marco Rubio right now. Marco Rubio right now is a heat-seeking missile that is trained on Trump. And maybe if he wins Ohio and Florida, which he looks very likely, well, not very likely to do. He's going to face a tough test. Then he doesn't need to do this. But I think he could aid his ability to do that if he did this. And I guarantee you, if he had actual political professionals in his inner circle, this is what they would be telling him to do. Guess what, homie? You gotta lead on chips. And it's not possible for them to come up on you unless, being the other candidates, it's not possible for them to catch you unless you make mistakes. So we are going to cool our pies. No more crazy talk. No more personal attacks. When everybody is looking at these polls, we want them to start forgetting about all the Ben Carson's mentally handicapped, Ted Cruz is a liar from Canada, Marco Rubio is a choke artist. We want them to start forgetting about all that. And we are going to use one of Marco Rubio's most effective lines from the beginning of this campaign the next time that Marco comes after Trump. Trump could look right back at Marco and say, listen, I understand that because of where you are in the polls, somebody has convinced you that going after me would make you do better. I respect your position, and I respect our disagreements. Done. This thing's over. This thing is it. Done. Finito. Now, I don't think he's going to do it because he is somebody that needs, just absolutely desires victory, right? Like he needs that own his little like jabbing the knife kind of moment. So he would want to beat them and then make them submit to his will. He wouldn't want to start to take out their teeth, but he could. It's not like anybody who follows him is going to think that anything he does is wrong at this point. And it's true. Marco Rubio just started yelling and screaming about Donald Trump peeing his pants and having small hands, which you know what that means. Small mittens. Just kidding. Small penises, which Donald Trump talked about on stage, which is just hilarious. It's just something fascinating. And it's a move that he has yet to do. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but it is something that I thought was interesting. There's a very famous James Carville quote that Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line. If you're not familiar with James Carville, he is one of the most iconic political characters of the modern era. He looks like an enchanted skeleton that has been wrapped in colored saran wrap. He speaks with a Cajun accent, and he's ridiculous. I love the milieu of James Carville. But I thought it was very funny that this year, it's the exact opposite. Democrats are falling in line. Republicans are falling in love. Because I don't think anybody would, even diehard Hillary supporters probably wouldn't say that they are just now falling in love with Hillary Clinton. Even if you are a mad Clinton supporter, you've probably been one for a little bit, and you are in the relationship maintenance phase of your love affair. You probably heard things that you don't really agree. It's just been a while. She's been a known quantity. And effectively, you've seen a lot of Bernie supporters being forced to fall in line. Get with the program. We can't afford to have a Republican in the White House. Vote Democrat. You better. Apparently, I'm being alerted by Hoppy Hobo that Nate Silver made this observation last July. That's why Nate Silver is one of the best in the business, and I'm some schmo with a random podcast. But there is no doubt that Republicans are in gaga lerv with Donald Trump. I mean, look, again, the evangelical vote, for which there is an internal civil war. Some of whom want to have somebody that looks like them. Others want to have somebody that they feel will speak for them, even if he's a thrice married mega sinner who's effectively a villain from the Bible. It just boils down. Listen, man, Milo, last name I cannot pronounce. He is a firebrand Molotov cocktail throwing Republican, or not Republican, conservative voice. I think for Breitbart. For whatever reason, I wound up on his Vine at some point. And there's a Vine of him with a Donald Trump sweater on with the song, the A$AP Rocky song, I love bad bitches. That's my effing problem. And I feel like that just encapsulates everything about the Trump movement, right? That is the Republican siren call. They love bad bees. That's their effing problem. One final note, we say goodnight to Ben Carson this week. A puzzling campaign from the very beginning, easily had its high point in Iowa when Donald Trump was trying to act like a normal human for a week and a half. Trump then snapped out of it and made fun of him as a mentally handicapped person. That is it. He is out. I think he said he cannot see a pathway to the nomination. And so therefore he's not spending, I don't know. I mean, listen, there's nothing about Ben Carson that's made a whole lot of sense during this whole cycle. However, what we can say is good night, sweet prince, and may all of your dreams lay inside hermetically sealed pyramids. We need to get to what is by far the most popular segment of this show. I don't care. If Nate Silver's done this since last July. I want to go ahead and have a good time tonight. It is Friday, ladies and gentlemen. I want to go ahead and now we can go to the bar. Okay, yeah, we can maybe go to a comic book shop, play some board games. Let's spice it up. What do you say we go ahead and... Oh, wait, hold on. It's been a while since I fit into that suit. Let me go ahead and put on that suit there. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, damn, this has got me feeling like I'm gonna need to see some TNA. Let's head down to the 7-Eleven. I got a $100 bill and I'm only gonna buy a hot dog. Cause we need all our singles for a pole dance. This pole dance comes from the Motor City of Detroit. Fox 2. Polled only on March 2nd with a sample of 643 likely voters. A margin of error of 3.9. In fourth place, a man who literally has to win. Otherwise, he is a useless appendage. It is Kasich Slaysick. Because he's slaying you fools, and he's got that sick booty. He's actually neither, so we'll move on. Third place. Oh, man. Effectively looking like the Macarena of this primary process. A Latin treat that might have seen better days. Oh, he can still shake it like a maraca. Marco Rubio! 15%. Hey, listen. You take a little bit of Texas, take a little bit of Canada, shake it up in a Cuban, what's the shaker thing? A shaker thing. Strain over ice. You've got Teddy Cruz, 19%. But hey, looky. Number one stays number one with a 42% polling. Ladies and gentlemen, it is your front runner, Don J. Come on, everybody. Show your appreciation by tossing your ones. Oh, what a great job they all did. Of course, we have our own poll. You can go ahead and find it at bit.ly/politics11. Oh, wait, no, sorry. No, sorry, politics. bit.ly/politicspoll12. Again, that is bit.ly/politicspoll12. We always ask you who you are wanting to vote for and who is your second choice. We have a tie at the top. Bernie Sanders dominant normally in this poll, tied now with Hillary Clinton. It seems as if our liberal listeners are falling in line. Meanwhile, Hillary is also your highest second place vote. That is next to Bernie Sanders. So go ahead and take your vote for this week's poll. That is bit.ly/politicspoll12. Again, bit.ly/politicspoll12. We love your emails. Email us at justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Put politics in the subject line. Gregory writes, here's a thought on why the GOP may be too late in stopping Trump's stopping Trump. Louisiana's primary is tomorrow, and the anti-Trump ads started airing in New Orleans on Wednesday, the day after Super Tuesday. No political ads were airing before Tuesday, and the New Orleans market is home to the two biggest parishes that not only vote Republican, but are two of the biggest population centers in the state, St. Tammany and Jefferson. The latest poll conducted by the University of New Orleans shows Trump with a 38% lead, followed by Cruz with 26, Rubio with 11, and Kasich with 5. If the GOP establishment really don't want Trump to get the nomination, airing anti-Trump ads 4 days before the primary is not a good strategy. I agree. What you're probably seeing is the Our Priorities ads. That's an independent anti-Trump group, and they recently just got the funding to start running those ads. So that's the lateness in it. But it is indicative of the larger issue that the Republican Party has not been able to get their ass together on Trump the entire time, man. If they had as much action as they had in talking about stopping Trump, I don't think Trump would be in the position that he is right now. But everybody wants to wring their hands so hard they're going to fall off, but not actually do a whole lot. So what you're seeing there is the fruit of that. Adam writes in, my nightmare last night, Hillary and Trump won the nominations, but Bernie has so much money left over that he went back to independent to split the liberal vote. I don't think so. I think Bernie does not want to be his supporters. I don't think have the stomach for an independent run, and he would need his supporters. Like, he would need a massive outcry from his supporters to go independent for him to do it. But I think, most of his, those memes with Homer Simpson, like slowly going back into the hedge and then coming back out with something different on. You see it a lot in sports. We're in the process where Bernie fans are just slowly backing up into the hedge so they can emerge with H hats. Dr. G writes, I think an interesting question for the poll would be who votes at polling places or by absentee ballot. My friends and I who went away to college have always used absentees, but our friends who stayed home still go to a polling place. It sounds like a pain to me, and I don't want to change. I would love to get to a point where we could just vote by app. Like, I don't know why we can't. It seems like it would be about as safe and understood as getting a random senior citizen to hand you a piece of paper and then entrusting them with the care and safeguarding of your vote. But who knows? Commander Fish, on last week's show, you asked what it will take before we give up the goat on Sanders. So here's what he needs to keep the primary going. Vermont, Colorado, Minnesota, Massachusetts, and Oklahoma. Lose any one of those and it's probably over. Now, this was written before Super Tuesday. And I think he definitely won Vermont. I think he lost at least one of these. Clinton's biggest advantage is going to be in the Southeast, so even if Super Tuesday looks like a bloodbath, Sanders will be more competitive in the rest of the country, particularly the Midwest and the Northeast, where the white people are. But if South Carolina is any indication, there's going to be one hell of a margin to make up. Will it be possible? I don't know, but it's at least enough to keep the dream on life support. Switching to the Republican race, I'm entertaining the theory that it may be beneficial for Rubio, for the rest of the candidates, Kasich, Cruz, and Carson, to stay in the race. They don't seem to run these type of polls anymore, but back when they did last year, Trump did very well as a second-choice candidate for Cruz and Carson supporters. It's entirely possible that Carson dropping out could give Trump another 5% point bump in the polls, which would end the entire campaign before Rubio could even try his big blue state Hail Mary. As for Kasich, he's the only candidate with a shot of beating Trump in Ohio, which is winner take all. If Trump gets that fat stack of delegates, it's almost surely over for Rubio. Since Rubio has little chance of winning it himself, none of the above, Kasich is the best possible outcome. I'm just imagining a scenario now where Kasich's Ohio victory speech, he states, yeah, I just won my first state, and no, we don't have great momentum. I'm dropping out. This was always just about screwing the Donald, and mission accomplished. I did the whole federal thing for a while. Nap, never again. Peace out. Vote Rubio. Click. I mean, this campaign cycle is already psychotic enough, so it's not really that far-fetched, is it? Not now, man. We are past the point of worrying about whether or not something is sane. Everything is fair game in this election. If you would like to email us, it is justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Make sure that you put politics in the subject line. You can, of course, buy The Contender at thecontender.us. Pre-order our 2016 expansion. Again, pre-order our 2016 expansion. Can't tell you this enough. bit.ly/2016contender is a short link to bring you there. Music, of course, is provided by Velasco and Trop Killers, and you can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. One note, if you are in or going to be in Austin, Texas next week for the South by Southwest Festival, I'm doing a meetup for The Contender on Wednesday, March 9th, 6 p.m. at Hideout Coffee. Hideout Coffee, 6 p.m. I'll be there. We're playing The Contender. It's going to be a blast. Thank you so much to anybody who's going to be there. We're going to have an absolute great time.
Politics, 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 politics.
But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, next time I talk to you, we will have voted in Michigan, and effectively, the end of days will be upon us as Florida and Ohio get to the polls. See you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.